Hey, what's up, guys? Currency Relics back again for another currency update. It's been 10 years since I began collecting, and it's that time of year again, so I figured I'd bring all my notes out and put them in order by type and in order by series. So we're going to start with the legal tenders here. The original $1 note. Got the 2. The 5 as well. And the 10. This note is the starburst variety, as you can see right there. There's a little starburst. And on the reverse, I have the Roman numeral instead of the 10. Next up, we got the, so we're missing the $20, and the 50 and the 100 are extremely difficult to get your hands on. So we're missing the $20 note, and that would complete the 1862 set for most people, for the average collector. Next, we got the Rainbow Series. We got the Ace here. Obviously missing that corner there. Got the 2. Yeah, this has definitely been a doctored note. We got the 5. Some paper pulls. And we have the 20. This is a more difficult type. Comments of added corners right here, right here. Now I've got what I like to call the floral design. So this seal here is in this series. The 1874s, 1875, and 1878s all have the floral design. So I just collect them all as one type instead of going year by year. Some are much more rare than others. This is one of those series that you can cherry pick because people won't always know what they have. Right here we got the 1. Sadly, some tape repairs in this note. It looks great, at least in my collection. I collect the nice circulated notes. I'm happier just to have an example of a type than I am, worrying about extremely high grade. This is my other note in my floral type. So here I'm missing the 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100. All right, time for the 1880s. Here's a $1. Net with this left side, you can clearly see reattached right there. I also have a duplicate for this note, which also has an issue, but it was so cheap, I couldn't help myself. I had to pick it up. $2, 1880. Also a note a little bit low in grade, even for my collection, which is saying something, but it was so cheap, I couldn't help myself at the time. And this is something I got like at least 5 years ago, and I didn't really have a whole lot of, my budget wasn't that strong for my collection yet, so I was happy to get that type at the time, and it has a good story along with it. Got a $5 FR75, one of the rarest Friedberg numbers for the $5 1880. Signatures of Rosecrans and Hyatt. There's about 20 pieces known. Got the $10 1880. The Jackass note. And we've got the $20 1880. I love the large seals on these series. So I'm missing the 50 and the 100 for this series. So we got the 1917 $1 legal tender. This one being an Ephrata Fine note from Ephrata, Pennsylvania. One of many found in a hoard. Have the $2 1917 with a nice paperclip rust stain. $5 1907 wood chopper. $10 Bison note, 1901. This example, even though it's not a comment, it has definitely been washed. You can tell by how faded the seal is, and it's kind of smeared a little bit. You can tell on the serial number. For that reason, I got this at a good price. To me, as a collector, it was still worth it. Alright, now to the 1923. I have the $1 red seal. One of my favorites. I just think it's such a simple design. And we have the 10, the poker chip. Sought after type. Alright, so that's it for my legal tenders. Still missing a good amount of pieces, but most of them are the higher denomination. Alright, next up, we'll go with the silver certificates here. Alright, so first up we got the series of 1880. Now there is the series of 1878, which is very similar, but for this, for my collection, the 1880 will do. 1878 is a very prohibitive series to collect, and they look very similar, so I'm content with the 1880s. Here we have the Decatur note, because of this man. Difficult note. Beautiful reverse. missing the 10, missing the 50 and the 100. Here we have the 1886 series. Nice Martha note. The 1886 had the ornate reverse as opposed to the 1891s. The $2 notes were completely different, as you'll see soon. This one has a hole in it, sadly. So I am missing the Morganback, the $5 note, the Tombstone 10, and the $20 note for this series. They made no higher denominations for the 1886. Very rough Martha here for the 1891 silver certificates. More simple design. Wyndham note. So here I have a pretty big hole. I'm missing the 5, I'm missing the 10. And I jump straight to the 20 here with Manning. Very sought after type. Choice Fine 15. And I have the $50 1891. This one being repaired, and it is not extremely visible. It's not readily apparent where the repair was, at least not to me. And I am also missing the 100 for this series. Educational notes. I have a $1 educational. Beautiful note with tape repairs. Got this note extremely cheap years ago. But the body of the note is in absolutely amazing condition for my collection. So it was a no-brainer, really. Martha and George. I have the 2. And the 5. So this is one of my few completed series. Moving into the 1899 Black Eagle. The 2 mini porthole. And the Chief. $5 1899. Moving on to the 1923s. I have the 1. This is my first large note I ever got at a coin show 2013 for $50. never leaving my collection. And we have the 5, the OG porthole. Wraps it up for the silver certificates. All right, next, silver and gold. Might as well move on to the gold. All right, there is a series of 1862, I believe, in the 1860s of gold certificates. Those notes are basically impossible to collect. So for the common person, it starts here at 1882. And, pardon me, I have the $20 gold certificate of 1882. President Garfield. Next up, we have the 50. Very faded seal. Very problematic note in general. These are difficult to come by, though. Even though they're not particularly rare, I don't see them a whole lot. And we have the $20 Technicolor. Another rough note, but any example of this type is something to be proud to own. Definitely on the rough end here. With a very, very oxidized reverse. But I already have a good example of this reverse, so happy to own the type. So I am missing the 1882 100 and the 500 and 1000. That goes for all the high denominations in the other sets. Some of them are extremely difficult to get, but the 1882 and the 1922 golds are achievable. If you really are a hardcore collector, but for most people, it's just better not to include it in your set. Here we have the 10 of the 1922. One of my early notes in my collection, along with this $20 1922. Now here's a question. Would you consider the 1906 20, the 1913 50, and the 1907 $10 gold certificate notes their own type? Let me know in the comments. Likewise with the 1914 Federal Reserve notes, the red seal varieties. Because I'm on the fence. I'm not really considering them a type because of how similar they are. It's almost like, but at the same time, like it's more than a signature difference, so might just have to include them, but I'm not sure. Here we have the 50. This is the small serial number variety. Beautiful reverse. And we have the 1922 $100 note. Alright, that wraps up the gold certificates. We'll move on to the treasury notes. You know, first, I'm going to bring out this small size. So, for brevity, I'm not bringing out every single one of my small notes. I've pretty much completed my small note collection. Only a few small changes, and this set I added one note too. So here's the 10, the 20, The 50, which is the new edition. This one is harder for me to find than the 100 was at a good price. They just blew up since I began collecting. And then the $100 1928 golds. There's the 500 and 1000 as well, which aren't impossible, but for now I'm content with this. Alright, so that's all the gold certificates. Next we have the treasury notes. Only the 1890 and the 1891. 1890s having the ornate back similar to the 1886 silver certificates. And the 1891 moving on to the more simple design to aid against counterfeiting. Here we have a very rough and my sole 1890 treasury note, the $1. I'm missing the 2, the 5, the 10, and yeah, everything beyond that is very difficult to obtain, and the 20, and beyond that is very difficult to obtain. The 1891 $1 treasury note. Now in this series there is a $50 note, but that one is extremely hard to find. $2 1891 McPherson, one of my favorite notes. So when I do wind up picking up the 1890 version, I'm going to get a higher grade piece than 8, and that's for sure. At least a fine. And we have the 5 for the 1891 Treasury series. Honestly, I think the Treasury series is one of my favorite, so it's kind of a shame that I have the fewest notes from that series, so I need the 10, the 20, I mean at least the 10 and the 20. Alright, next up, we will do the Nationals. Alright, bam. Gonna get set up here. So I'm collecting the ornate backs, I'm calling them, but this is an example of the original series Nationals, and then there's the 1875s. Basically, if it has the vignettes on the reverse, that's the kind that I want to collect. I don't mind if it's the original or the 1875s. So we have the 1. This being a New York note. And we have a very nice $10 1875. This was an auction snipe. Yes, it has an apparent grade, but it is an uncirculated note. And it is absolutely beautiful. So I just couldn't help myself. Look at that reverse. This is the same reverse that's on the 1918 $500 Federal Reserve. So this is the only possible way I'm going to get this reverse in this nice condition. So I'm missing the Lazy Deuce, I'm missing the 5, I'm missing the 20, the 50, and the 100. Here I have an example of the Brownback series. Here's the 5. Big old stain in the middle. Here's the 1902 series, the Blue Seal variety. Here's the $5. The 10. The 20. The 50. This is a plain back. There would be dates right here and here if it was a date back. And the 100. That is a complete set there. Quickly move on to the Federal Reserve notes. Here we have the $5 Federal Reserve note. The 10. The 20. The 50. And the 100. Quickly moving on to the Federal Reserve banknotes here. Not the Federal Reserve notes. Very similar name. These are not national currency. There's a whole, there's a bunch of good explanations on the difference all over YouTube. I'm not an expert on that, but you can easily find out about that. And here's a Flying Eagle, the 1. The 2, the Battleship. And the 5. I'm missing the 10 and the 20 and the 50 for the 1918s. I've also acquired some fractional currency. This is something, when I go to a show, and I have like little extra money, or if I didn't get what I wanted, I'll just pick up a couple fractional notes, fill out, some holes in my collection. There's only 23 types when it comes to the fractional notes. There's a whole bunch of variations. That gets very complicated, but I am just interested in the types. And right now, I believe I have 7 or 8, so I'm getting there. This is the first issue, and I'm missing the 5 and the 10 cent. Here's a 25 cent. The 50. Moving on to the second issue, I'm missing the 5, 10, 25, and here I have the 50. Moving on to the third issue, I have the Spinner note, Francis Spinner. Moving into the fourth issue, I have the 10-cent. The 15-cent. And the 50-cent. This being the most difficult type out of all the fractional notes. And it's not, I mean, you'll find them at just about any convention you go to. They're still readily available. They just are the priciest out of all of them. And I have one from the 5th issue, the 5th and final issue. 10-cent note. And I figure, why not end it with a high denomination? It's my $500 note. Fills the hole perfectly. With the prices they're going for now, it's just hard to justify with how extremely common these things are. Alright, so this wraps up 10 years of collecting currency. I will see you guys soon. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time.